My name is Emma. I'm 26. And last Wednesday, my life turned into a nightmare when I walked into that will reading, expecting $5 million, but found 12 family members ready to destroy me. I made one decision right there in that cold conference room. I wouldn't let them see me break. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop your location in the comments and hit subscribe if you want to hear how I survived this betrayal. 3 weeks ago, my Aunt Margaret died. Pancreatic cancer, 4 months from diagnosis to funeral. She was 73, never married, no kids, and richer than God from selling her tech company in 2008. We'd been close since I was little. Every Sunday for the past 8 years, I'd drive my beat-up 2010 Toyota Corolla 40 minutes to her mansion in Westchester, bringing Chinese takeout from her favorite place. $12 for orange chicken and fried rice, the only thing she'd eat during chemo. The family hadn't visited her in years. My father, David, her younger brother, always too busy with his failing real estate business. My mother, Patricia, couldn't stand Margaret's success. My older brother, Connor, 29, investment banker, only called when he needed connections. My younger sister, Sophia, 22, influencer wannabe, thought Margaret was boring and old. My cousins, aunts, uncles, none of them showed up until they heard she was dying. Then suddenly everyone cared. But that Wednesday morning, sitting in the lawyer's office, everything I thought I knew exploded. The lawyer, James Morrison, cleared his throat and adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. The conference room smelled like leather and disappointment. My family filled every seat around the massive oak table, vultures in designer clothing pretending to grieve. Before we begin, Morrison said, Ms. Calloway left specific instructions for this reading. He pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. Aunt Margaret's voice filled the room, recorded 2 months before she died. If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and you're all gathered for the wrong reasons. Except for Emma. She knows what love means. My stomach twisted. Everyone turned to stare at me. To my brother David, Margaret's voice continued, who visited exactly twice in 10 years, both times to ask for money. I leave my collection of self-help books. Maybe you'll finally learn something. Dad's face went purple. Mom grabbed his hand, her knuckles white. To Patricia, who spread rumors about my mental health to anyone who'd listen, I leave my psychiatric evaluation from last month proving I'm completely sane. Frame it. Nervous laughter from my cousins. This was going bad fast. To Connor, who only called when he needed investment advice but never once asked how I was feeling, I leave my autobiography. Page 247 explains why connections without compassion are worthless. Connor loosened his $200 tie, sweat beading on his forehead. To Sophia, who called me cringe at last year's Christmas, I leave my Instagram account with 3 followers. Maybe you'll finally understand that real relationships matter more than likes. The room erupted. Dad slammed his fist on the table. This is ridiculous! I'm her brother! Her actual blood! Morrison raised his hand for silence. Please, let me continue. Margaret's voice returned. Now, for the important part. Emma, my sweet girl, you brought me orange chicken every Sunday. You held my hair during chemo. You slept on my bathroom floor when I was too sick to be alone. You never once asked about money. I felt tears burning my eyes. Around me, family members shifted like predators sensing weakness. Emma, I promised you $5 million, and I meant it. But there's a test first. My heart stopped. A test? Hidden in my house are 10 envelopes. Each contains a memory we shared and a clue to the next location. Find all 10 within 72 hours, and the $5 million is yours. Fail, and it goes to charity. What? Connor shot up from his chair. That's insane! However, Margaret's voice continued, and I could hear her smiling, your family members are allowed to compete. If any of them finds all 10 envelopes first, they get the money instead. The room went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then, chaos. This is manipulation, Mom shrieked. It's illegal, Dad yelled at Morrison, who shook his head. Completely legal. She had full mental capacity. The house opens in 1 hour. May the best person win. Sophia was already on her phone, probably posting about it. Connor was texting furiously, hiring help, no doubt. I drove to Margaret's mansion in silence, my ancient Corolla struggling up the private road. Behind me, a parade of luxury vehicles. Connor's BMW, Dad's Mercedes, various cousins in their Audis and Range Rovers. We looked like a funeral procession for greed. The house stood massive against the gray October sky. 3 stories, 15 bedrooms, memories in every corner. I'd spent more time here than my own home growing up. The spare key was still under the ceramic frog where Margaret always kept it, but the front door stood open. Morrison was there, checking names off a list. The rules, he announced as we gathered in the foyer: no destroying property, no physical violence. You have until Saturday, 3 p.m. Begin. Everyone scattered like roaches when you turn on the light. Connor headed for Margaret's office. Dad went straight to the library. Mom and Sophia ran upstairs. The cousins spread out through the main floor. I stood still, thinking. Margaret said each envelope contained a memory we shared. The others were ransacking drawers, but they didn't know her like I did. Our first real bonding moment happened when I was 7. She'd taken me to her greenhouse during a family party I was too shy to enjoy. We'd planted tomatoes together, and she'd said, "Good things grow when you're patient, Emma." The greenhouse. That's where I'd start. I walked through the kitchen, past my Uncle Brian, rifling through cabinets, out the back door. The greenhouse stood neglected now. Windows foggy with condensation. Inside the greenhouse, dead plants filled the tables. Margaret hadn't been able to tend them during treatment. But there, in the corner where we'd planted those first tomatoes, a small envelope was tucked into a terracotta pot. My hands shook as I opened it. Margaret's handwriting, shaky from the chemo. Emma, age 7, scared of the party. I taught you that growing things takes patience. Your next clue is where we made your first birthday cake from scratch when your mother forgot your 10th birthday. The kitchen. But not the main kitchen. The small servant's kitchen in the basement where Margaret actually loved to cook. I slipped the envelope into my pocket and headed back inside. Through the windows, I could see Connor in the office, throwing papers everywhere. Sophia was live streaming her search, talking to her phone. Guys, this is literally insane. My crazy dead aunt is making us hunt for money like it's Easter. The basement stairs creaked under my feet. The servant's kitchen was dusty but untouched. None of them would think to look here. They'd never spent enough time with Margaret to know she preferred this cozy space to the showpiece upstairs. Behind the ancient KitchenAid mixer, the red one we'd used for that chocolate cake, was envelope number 2. Emma, age 10, your mother said she was too busy to bake. We made a lopsided masterpiece and ate the whole thing ourselves. Sweet revenge, literally. Your next clue, where I taught you to be brave when Connor locked you in the dark. The attic. I'd been 12. Connor had thought it was hilarious to lock me up there during hide and seek. Margaret had found me crying and stayed with me. The attic access was in the 3rd floor hallway. I could hear Dad in a nearby bedroom, cursing as he emptied drawers. 20 years of visiting her, and this is what I get? 20 years? Try 2 visits, Dad. The attic was exactly as I remembered, dusty, full of sheet-covered furniture and boxes labeled in Margaret's neat writing. The corner where Connor had locked me still had the old rocking chair where Margaret had sat with me, teaching me to control my breathing, telling me stories about brave women throughout history. Envelope 3 was under the chair's cushion. Emma, age 12, you learned that darkness can't hurt you if you're not alone. I was proud of you for not tattling on Connor. You always protected others, even when they didn't deserve it. Next, our rainy day tradition spot. The window seat in the blue guest room. We'd spent countless rainy afternoons there, reading books and drinking hot chocolate with too many marshmallows. As I headed back down, I passed Cousin Jennifer literally cutting open pillows in the master bedroom. The destruction was starting. These people who hadn't visited Margaret in years were tearing apart her home for money. The blue guest room was miraculously empty. The window seat cushion lifted up, storage underneath. The envelope was taped to the inside of the lid. Emma, age 14, devastated by your first heartbreak. We read all of Jane Austen in one weekend and decided men in books were better. You're halfway there, my dear. Next, where you told me your biggest secret. My biggest secret. When I was 16, I'd told Margaret the first was gay before I'd told anyone else. We'd been in her art studio, the converted pool house nobody else ever visited. She'd hugged me and said, "Love is love, Emma. Anyone who thinks otherwise isn't worth your time." The pool house was across the garden. I had to pass through the main hall where Morrison sat, observing the chaos. He gave me a small nod. Was that approval? My mother intercepted me at the back door. "Emma, sweetie," her voice fake sweet, "you must have some idea where these envelopes are. We're family. We should work together." "Like how you worked together to visit her during chemo?" I asked. Her face hardened. "Don't be selfish. This money belongs to all of us." "According to Margaret, it belongs to whoever finds the envelopes." I pushed past her. Behind me, I heard her mutter something about ungrateful brat. The pool house was locked, but I knew Margaret kept a key in the fake rock by the door. Inside, her paintings covered every wall. Landscapes, portraits, abstracts filled with color and life. On her easel sat an unfinished painting of a sunset. The envelope was in the drawer where she kept her best brushes. "Emma, age 16, trusting me with your truth. You were so scared, but brave enough to be yourself. I painted a rainbow that day, remember? It's in storage now, but my love for you isn't." Next, midnight on your 18th birthday. The wine cellar. She'd brought me down there at midnight when I turned 18, let me pick any bottle I wanted. The wine cellar entrance was through the main kitchen. Connor was there now, on his phone with someone. "I don't care what it costs. Get over here with a metal detector, ground-penetrating radar, whatever it takes." He saw me and ended the call. Little Emma still playing teacher's pet even when she's dead? Still being a disappointment even when there's money involved? I shot back. His jaw clenched. "You poisoned her against us. All those Sunday visits, playing the perfect niece. They weren't plays, Connor. I actually loved her." "Right. And the $5 million has nothing to do with it." "When did you last visit her? Before she was dying?" Silence. "Then that's not the point." "That's exactly the point." I went down to the wine cellar. The 1982 Chateau Margaux we'd opened that night was still missing from its slot. We'd drunk it together, toasting my adulthood, her teaching me about wine and life in equal measure. The envelope was where the bottle should have been. "Emma, officially adult, though you'll always be my little girl. You chose sparkling water after 2 sips of wine, responsible even in celebration. Almost done now. Your 9th clue, where I taught you that money isn't everything. The charity office." She'd converted a room on the 2nd floor into her headquarters for managing donations. She'd spent more money on others than herself. But when I climbed back up, the hallway was blocked. Dad, Connor, and 3 cousins stood there like a wall. "Hand them over," Dad said. "The envelopes you found." "I don't have any envelopes," I lied, my hand instinctively moving to my pocket. Connor grabbed my wrist. "Bullshit. We've seen you finding them. Let go of me." "Or what? You'll tell Aunt Margaret?" Cousin Brad laughed. "Oh, wait." Morrison's voice came from behind them. "Physical violence voids your participation. I suggest you release her immediately." Connor let go, but they didn't move aside. "She's cheating somehow. She knows where they are." "Because I actually knew her," I said. "Because I spent time with her when she was alive, not just when she was dying." "You manipulated her," Dad spat, "played on her loneliness." "I loved her. You didn't even like her." "She was my sister." "When was her birthday, Dad?" Silence. "What was her middle name? Her favorite food? What was she allergic to?" More silence. "March 15th, Elizabeth. Thai green curry and shellfish. I know because I cared." I pushed through them. The charity office was ransacked, papers everywhere, but the envelope was exactly where I had expected. inside the frame of the first dollar she'd ever donated, hanging on the wall. Emma, learning that giving brings more joy than having. You donated your entire savings, $847, to the animal shelter after working all summer. I matched it times 10. Your penultimate clue, our worst day together. The hospital room recreation. When Margaret had her first cancer scare 5 years ago, she'd had a room set up in the house for potential hospice care. We'd spent 3 days there, thinking she was dying before getting the all clear. The medical room was on the first floor, past the conservatory. I could hear destruction everywhere now, furniture being overturned, walls being tapped for hollow spots, even what sounded like floorboards being pried up. Sophia was in the conservatory, filming herself crying. Guys, this is so hard. My aunt died, and now my family is falling apart over money. But like, $5 million though. The medical room still had the hospital bed, the monitors, the IV stand, everything covered in dust sheets. That 3-day scare had been hell. Margaret had been so afraid, not of dying, but of dying alone. I'd held her hand for 72 straight hours. The envelope was taped under the bed. Emma, my guardian angel when I thought I was dying. You missed your college finals to stay with me. I tried to pay for your repeat semester, but you refused. You said time with me was worth more than any degree. Last clue, my love, the beginning and the end. Her writing room, where she'd written her first novel at 25 and her last journal entry 3 weeks ago. But when I reached the second floor, the hallway was chaos. Connor had hired people, actual contractors, who were pulling books off shelves with metal detectors. Dad was on the phone with a lawyer, trying to find a loophole. Mom was screaming at Morrison about elder abuse. The writing room door was locked. From inside, I heard whispers. I pressed my ear against the wood. Must be in here somewhere. Check every book, every drawer. Brad and Jennifer had somehow gotten in through the connected bathroom. They were destroying Margaret's personal sanctuary. I had to think fast. The window at the end of the hall led to a small roof section. From there, I could reach the writing room's balcony. It was dangerous, but I was running out of time. It was already Friday night. The roof tiles were slippery from earlier rain. I pressed myself against the wall, inching along the narrow ledge. Below, the garden lights illuminated family members searching the grounds with flashlights, like some demented treasure hunt. The balcony door was unlocked. Margaret never locked it, said she liked the air. I slipped inside just as Brad was dumping a box of manuscripts on the floor. What are you looking for? I asked. They spun around. Jennifer actually hissed at me. Get out, we got here first. This is her private writing room. Have some respect. Respect doesn't pay bills, Brad said, going back to ransacking. I knew where the last envelope would be. Margaret's first edition of Pride and Prejudice. The book that made her want to become a writer. It sat on the highest shelf, untouched. But I couldn't get to it with them here. So I did something Margaret would have appreciated. I improvised. Oh my God, I gasped, pointing at the window. Connor's found something in the garden. They both rushed to look. I grabbed the book, felt the envelope inside, and ran. Behind me, Jennifer screamed, She's got it! She's got the last one! The house erupted. I could hear footsteps pounding from every direction, voices shouting, doors slamming. I ran down the main staircase, taking steps 3 at a time. Connor appeared at the bottom, blocking my path. I veered left into the dining room. Dad came through the other door. I was trapped. Give them to me, Connor said, advancing. You don't deserve that money. Neither do you. I'm her nephew. Blood family. You called her a crazy old bat at Christmas. More family members poured in, surrounding me. Mom, Sophia, Brad, Jennifer, cousins I barely knew, all closing in like a pack of wolves. Please, I said, these envelopes aren't just clues, they're memories. Our memories. Memories don't pay for houses, someone shouted. I backed against the wall, clutching the envelopes to my chest. Morrison appeared in the doorway, but he couldn't help. This was part of the test. Then I remembered Margaret's final letter, still unopened. With shaking hands, I pulled it out. Emma, if you're reading this, you've found all 10. But the test isn't over. You have a choice. Keep the clues and claim the money, or read them aloud to everyone and let them understand why I chose you. The money is yours either way, but I think you know what I'd want you to do. I looked at the angry faces surrounding me. These people who'd ignored Margaret for years, who'd mocked her success, her generosity, her loneliness. Did they deserve to know? But this wasn't about them. It was about Margaret. Fine, I said. You want to know what's in these envelopes? I'll tell you. I opened the first one, my voice shaking. Emma, age 7, scared of the party. I taught you that growing things takes patience. That's it, Connor scoffed. Gardening advice? I continued reading each envelope, each memory. The birthday cake when Mom forgot. The attic when Connor locked me in. The window seat for heartbreak. Coming out in the art studio. The wine cellar birthday. The charity lesson. The hospital scare. With each memory, the room got quieter. Mom's face went pale when I read about the forgotten birthday. Connor shifted uncomfortably at the attic story. She documented everything I said. Every moment you weren't there, every time I was. Not because she was keeping score, but because these moments mattered to her. That proves nothing, Dad said, but his voice was weaker. I pulled out my phone, showing them photos. Margaret and me at chemo, Margaret teaching me to paint. Margaret at my college graduation when none of them came. Hundreds of photos over 8 years. When did any of you last take a photo with her that wasn't at a funeral or holiday you were obligated to attend? Silence. Morrison stepped forward. Miss Thompson has found all 10 envelopes within the time limit. The $5 million is hereby. Wait, I said. Everyone stared at me. I want to add something to the record. Margaret left me $5 million, I said. But she gave me something worth more over the years. She gave me unconditional love. She taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about showing up. I looked at each of them. Dad, she called you every week for 3 years. You answered maybe 5 times. Mom, she invited you to lunch every month. You went twice. Connor, she offered to help with your student loans. You said you didn't need charity from A. Spinster. Sophia, she followed your Instagram, liked every post, commented supportive things. You blocked her because she was cringe. Sophia was actually crying now, and for once, she wasn't filming it. She didn't leave you out of the will to be cruel, I continued. She left you out because you left her out first. From your lives, your celebrations, your everyday moments, you only remembered she existed when you heard she was dying. You don't understand, Dad said. She was difficult, stubborn. She never approved of. Of what? Your third mortgage? Mom's shopping addiction? Connor's cocaine problem that he thinks nobody knows about? Connor went white. Oh yeah, she knew. She knew everything. But she would have helped if you'd just asked with love instead of entitlement. I turned to Morrison. I'll take the money, all of it. And I'll use it exactly how she taught me. To help people who deserve it, not those who demand it. The room exploded again, but I was done. I walked out. Morrison beside me. Outside, the October air hit my lungs like freedom. Morrison handed me a thick envelope. There's more, he said. Margaret left additional instructions for after the hunt. I opened it in my car, hands still shaking from adrenaline. My dearest Emma, congratulations. If you're reading this, you've survived the family feeding frenzy. The $5 million is yours, but there's more. I've also left you the house, my publishing rights worth another $2 million, and my art collection. The family will contest this, but I've left them each exactly $1, which legally proves I didn't forget them. I chose to exclude them. There's also a video message on a USB drive in Morrison's possession. Play it at your discretion. Know that I love you, that you were the daughter I never had, and that I'm proud of who you've become. P.S. Your cousin Jeffrey has been stealing from his employer. Your Uncle Tom is having an affair. Your Aunt Linda has a secret gambling addiction. I mention this not for blackmail, but for protection. If they come after you legally, Morrison has documentation of everything. Sometimes the best defense is knowing everyone's secrets. I laughed through my tears. Even dead, Margaret was still protecting me. My phone buzzed with texts. Some family members begging, others threatening, Sophia asking if we could talk about this like civilized people. I blocked them all. The only message I answered was from Rebecca, Margaret's housekeeper. "Miss Emma, I've packed Ms. Margaret's personal items as she requested. She wanted you to have her writing desk and her first edition collection. Should I expect you tomorrow?" The next morning, I returned to the house. The family was gone, but the destruction remained. Cushions slashed, drawers overturned, even some drywall punched through. They'd done more damage in 72 hours than Margaret had in 30 years of living there. Rebecca met me at the door, tears in her eyes. "They were like animals, Miss Emma. Ms. Margaret would be heartbroken." "No," I said, surprising myself with my certainty. She'd be validated. She knew exactly who they were. We spent the day cataloging damage for insurance. The contractor Connor had hired had ripped up original hardwood floors. Someone had spray-painted "Thief" on Margaret's portrait in the library. Probably Tyler, though he'd never admit it. In the writing room, I found something they'd missed in their ransacking. A hidden panel behind the bookshelf containing Margaret's real journals, not the ones about family visits, but her personal thoughts. The last entry was dated 3 days before she died. "Tomorrow, Morrison files the will. The family will show their true colors, and Emma will see them for what they are. I hate that she'll be hurt, but she needs to know she owes them nothing. They'll call her selfish for taking what I freely gave. They'll call her manipulative for loving without agenda. They'll try to break her. But Emma is stronger than she knows. She survived their indifference for 26 years. She can survive their anger now. And when the dust settles, she'll have the resources to build the life she deserves, away from people who only see value in dollar signs." A week later, Morrison called with expected news. The family was contesting the will. They'd pooled money for a high-powered law firm, claiming undue influence, mental incapacity, and fraud. "They don't have a case," Morrison assured me. Margaret was evaluated by 3 separate psychiatrists in her final months. She had witnesses for every will revision. And the treasure hunt actually proves mental acuity. She planned something complex and executed it perfectly. But they were trying other tactics too. Connor had contacted my employer, suggesting I'd manipulated an elderly woman. Dad wrote a letter to my landlord claiming I was involved in elder fraud. Sophia started a TikTok series called "How My Cousin Stole My Inheritance" that got 2 million views before I could get it taken down for defamation. The lowest blow came from Mom. She called my girlfriend Kate, whom I'd been dating for 2 years. "Did you know Emma's a master manipulator?" she'd said. "She isolated my sister-in-law from her loving family and stole millions. You should be careful. She might be manipulating you too." Kate had hung up on her, but the seed of doubt was planted. "Emma, I know your family is crazy, but $5 million? And the house? And you never mentioned your aunt was that rich?" "Because it didn't matter. I didn't visit her for money." "But you knew she had it." "Everyone knew. She sold her company for $30 million. But I also knew she donated most of it to charity. I never expected anything." Kate believed me, but the stress was showing. The court hearing was set for December. In the meantime, Morrison had released some funds for immediate expenses and security. I hired a PR firm to combat Sophia's social media campaign and a security company after Connor showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m., drunk and demanding his share. But the best investment was therapy. Dr. Sarah Chen specialized in family trauma and inheritance disputes. Apparently, it's common enough to be a specialty. "You're experiencing complicated grief," she explained. "You've lost Margaret, but also any illusion that your family loved you unconditionally. That second loss might hurt more." She was right. I'd always known my family was difficult, but I'd held on to hope that underneath, we cared about each other. Margaret's death had stripped that away. Then Morrison called with unexpected news. Margaret left one more surprise. She recorded a video message for the family, to be played only if they contested the will. It's comprehensive. We scheduled a meeting. The family arrived in force, confident their legal challenge would work. Morrison set up a screen and pressed play. Margaret appeared, thin from chemo but eyes blazing with clarity. "Hello, family. If you're watching this, you've contested my will and tried to take what I left to Emma. So let's discuss why you're really here." She proceeded to systematically destroy them. She had recordings of phone calls where they'd mocked her, screenshots of texts calling her the crazy rich aunt, security footage of them at her house during rare visits, complaining the whole time. "David," her image said, looking directly at the camera, "you told your golf buddies I was senile 2 years ago to explain why I wouldn't invest in your Ponzi scheme. I have the recording from the country club. They tape everything for legal purposes." Dad's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. "Patricia, you tried to have me declared mentally incompetent in 2019 so you could access my funds for your emergency. The psychiatrist you hired? He kept notes about you coaching him on what to find. He was very disturbed by your behavior." Mom went pale. "Connor, that cocaine problem Emma mentioned? I have your dealer on tape discussing your debts. Would your Wall Street firm like to know about your habit?" Connor stood to leave, but his lawyer pulled him back down. "The point is," Margaret continued, "I have everything documented, every slight, every cruelty, every attempt to use me. If you pursue this case, it all becomes public record. Emma won't have to destroy you. You've already destroyed yourselves." The video continued for 40 minutes. Margaret had receipts for everything: affairs, tax fraud, insurance scams, even Dad's fake charity that funneled money to his accounts. She'd hired private investigators, forensic accountants, digital security experts. The woman they'd dismissed as a lonely old spinster had built an airtight case against each of them. Now, Margaret's image said finally, "You have 2 choices. Drop the contest and walk away with your dignity somewhat intact, or proceed and have everything exposed. Emma doesn't know about most of this evidence. I tried to protect her from knowing how awful you really are. But if you force her hand, Morrison has instructions to use everything." The screen went dark. The room was silent for a full minute. Then the lawyers started whispering urgently to their clients. One by one, my family members signed papers dropping their contest of the will. Connor was the last to sign. He looked at me with pure hatred. "You didn't win," he said. "She just loved you more." "That's exactly how I won," I replied. They filed out in silence. Dad paused at the door, looked back like he wanted to say something, then left without a word. Morrison smiled, the first real emotion I'd seen from him. "Congratulations, Miss Thompson. The estate is yours, free and clear." "What about all that evidence Margaret mentioned?" "Sealed and stored, unless they try anything else. She really did think of everything." That night, I sat in Margaret's house, my house now, and cried. Not from sadness or even relief, but from the overwhelming realization that someone had loved me enough to protect me, even after death. 3 months later, the dust had settled. The family had gone silent. No texts, no calls, no social media attacks. Sophia had deleted her TikTok series. Connor had moved to London for work. My parents had filed for divorce. Apparently, the stress of losing the inheritance had broken their already fragile marriage. I'd quit my job and started a foundation in Margaret's name, focusing on LGBTQ+ youth who'd been rejected by their families. The first grant went to a shelter that needed renovation. Margaret would have loved the irony. Her homophobic brothers hoped for inheritance, now housing queer kids kicked out by their families. Kate and I had worked through the stress and were stronger for it. She'd moved into the house with me, and we'd turned Margaret's art studio into her photography workspace. But the biggest surprise came when Rebecca, the housekeeper, brought me a final box from the attic. "Ms. Margaret asked me to give you this after everything was settled," she said. Inside were letters, hundreds of them, all addressed to me, dated over the years, never sent. The first was from when I was 7. "Dear Emma, You probably don't remember today, but you told me I was your best friend. Your parents had been fighting, and you were scared. You're too young to read this now, but someday I want you to know you were my best friend too. Letters for every milestone, every visit, every moment she'd wanted to share but couldn't. The letters revealed a Margaret I'd never fully known. Her own family trauma, her struggles with sexuality in an era that demanded hiding, her regrets and triumphs. She'd been engaged once to a woman named Catherine in the 1970s, but they'd been forced apart by family pressure. I see myself in you, Emma, one letter read. Brave enough to be yourself despite the cost. I wasn't that brave at your age. I chose family approval over love. I got money and success but lost Catherine. Don't make my mistake. Choose love, always. Another letter from the day she was diagnosed. I'm not afraid of cancer, Emma. I'm afraid of dying with regrets. But then, I remember you exist. My second chance at unconditional love. My redemption for choosing wrong the first time. You are my legacy, not the money or the books or the company I built. You are proof that I learned to love correctly before it was too late. I decided to publish some of the letters as a memoir, with proceeds going to the foundation. The literary world was shocked that Margaret Calloway, the famous romance novelist, had been secretly gay. But her fans embraced it, saying it explained the deep longing in her love stories. The book tour meant facing questions about my family. I told the truth. Sometimes the family you're born into doesn't deserve you, and that's okay. You can build your own family from people who actually love you. At a signing in Boston, a young woman approached me, elderly lady beside her. Emma? The older woman said. I'm Catherine. Catherine had kept her own letters from Margaret, 50 years of correspondence that had never fully stopped. They'd remained friends, distant but constant, each watching the other's life from afar. She wrote about you constantly, Catherine said over coffee after the signing. Every letter for the past 8 years mentioned Emma this, Emma that. She said you were the daughter we never got to have. She showed me a photo from 1973, Margaret and Catherine at a pride parade in New York, young and radiant and clearly in love. Why didn't you reconnect when times changed? I asked. We tried, but by then I'd married someone else for safety, a gay man who needed cover too. We had children to protect our secret. Margaret had built her empire. We'd constructed lives that couldn't merge anymore, but she never stopped writing. Catherine gave me her letters to include in the memoir's second edition. They revealed Margaret's inner life, her struggles with the family's greed, her pride in my accomplishments, her hope that I'd live the authentic life she couldn't. The expanded memoir became a bestseller. My family tried to sue for defamation, but since everything was documented, they had no case. Instead, they became infamous as the family who'd driven away a literary icon for being herself. Connor lost his Wall Street job when the cocaine allegations surfaced during the lawsuit. Dad's business collapsed when his fraud was exposed. Mom lost her teaching position for other reasons. Turns out she'd been stealing from the PTA. But Sophia surprised me. Sophia showed up at the house on a rainy Thursday, no cameras, no audience, just her. I read the book, she said. All of it. The letters about me, too. Margaret had written about each family member with brutal honesty, but also unexpected compassion. About Sophia, she'd written, the child performs for love she never receives. Behind the camera, she's drowning. I wish I could save her, but she sees me as the enemy. I'm sorry, Sophia said, and for the first time in our lives, she seemed genuine. I was so focused on being seen that I never actually looked at anyone else, especially not you or Aunt Margaret. She'd left her influencer life, gotten a real job, started therapy. The inheritance stuff, the way we acted, I'm disgusted with myself. We were monsters. You were grieving, I offered, though we both knew that was generous. No, we were greedy. There's a difference. She asked for nothing, expected nothing, just wanted to apologize. As she left, she paused. The foundation you started? I volunteer at the shelter on weekends. Not for content, just to help. It's the first real thing I've done in years. Over time, she became the only family member I slowly rebuilt a relationship with. not close, but cordial. She'd send updates about the shelter kids. I'd send Margaret's recipes she'd mentioned loving. The rest of the family remained estranged. I heard updates occasionally. Dad remarried to someone half his age who left him within a year. Mom moved to Florida and became one of those bitter retirees who complain about everyone. Connor bounced between rehab and relapse. But I had built my own family. Kate and I got married in Margaret's garden. 5 years have passed since that chaotic will reading. I'm 31 now, still living in Margaret's house with Kate and our daughter, Margaret Catherine, though we call her Maggie. The foundation has helped over 500 LGBTQ+ youth find housing and support. We've opened 3 more shelters and started a scholarship program. Every success feels like Margaret's love multiplying into the world. Catherine visits regularly. At 82, she's become the grandmother figure I never had. She tells Maggie stories about her namesake, about brave women who loved despite the world telling them not to. Last week, I found one final letter from Margaret hidden in a book I'd never opened. It was dated the day before she died. My dearest Emma, if you found this, it means you've kept reading, kept searching, kept loving. That's who you are, someone who doesn't give up on people, even when they've given up on themselves. Your family will call you selfish for taking what I gave. The world might agree. But you and I know the truth. You never took anything. You only gave time, love, presence, patience. The money is just money. It will run out eventually. But what you gave me, the gift of not dying alone and unloved, that's eternal. Live well, love freely, and remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish when the other choice is letting yourself disappear. All my love, always, Margaret. I had the letter framed and hung in the study where I write now, working on my own novels. Above it hangs the photo Catherine gave me, Margaret at 25, radiant with possibility. The family still exists somewhere out there, living their bitter lives. But I've learned that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up, who stays, who loves you without a price tag. Margaret knew that. She made sure I learned it too. And that, more than any amount of money, was her true inheritance.